Imagine going through bad form, and whilst going through bad form, what's on the back of your head? The back of your head, you're thinking, man, I hope I can perform well in the next game. And whilst that's there in the back of your head, you're also thinking, oh my God, I'm not going to get paid the same amount I would get paid if I was in good form. Well, these are the talks that we're hearing that's making the rounds around Indian cricket. And there's a lot more to this, a lot that I agree with, a few that I don't. But let's get into it. So, here's what's being proposed. The number one proposition that's been put on the table has been that family cannot travel with the players for the entirety of the tour. It was an old rule that was there where the family could only travel for a couple of weeks during the course of a long tour. And I think that's being proposed to be brought back into Indian cricket where, say, any tour that's about 45 days or above, families can travel for up to 2 weeks. If it's a shorter tour than 45 days, if it's 30 days or so, they can travel for up to 1 week. So that has been being brought back to the table, and that could be one that could be applied. I don't mind this, honestly. On longer tours, you do want to have a break from the mundane and the status quo of a day-to-day of being on tour, because being on tour, especially depending on the atmosphere within the group, it can be hard sometimes can even be very toxic, and so you want to have a break away from the norm and just kind of go back to your family, have your family or trusted ones or friends that you can lean back on during the course of a tour. And so I don't mind this, generally having a family over a period of time. Imagine having your family with you at work the whole time. So you have no break from family, no break from work. There's no alone time. So I think this is a fine balance between the two, in my personal opinion. I think it's a fine balance between the two. On a 45-day tour, you have 15 days with family, 30 days on professional work. I think it makes sense. I quite like this. And I think that this could be implied and applied to Indian cricket very, very soon. So the second thing that's been proposed is everyone has unified transportation. I was quite flabbergasted when I actually saw this. I was like, when did the team travel otherwise in any way when you're with the Indian team? I thought whether you're family or not, whether you have family or not, everyone travels in the team bus. There's unified transportation organized for everybody. I don't know when that changed, and I don't think that augurs well for any team if they're traveling separately during the course of a team event. So I think even if you have family, everyone travels within the bus. And we did that a lot, even in the IPL, even in the Indian team, when I was a part of it. We traveled when the family was there, when my wife was there, she and I traveled together on the bus. So I don't know why it has changed, but I think that needs to go back to status quo. And I think that can be immediately applied. So what are the reasons behind why this conversation has come up now and why this conversation of this being proposed at this point in time? One, during long tours, you want to be able to build the team morale and build the team unity as well. Like I said, it's like in any team, it's like a family environment. If things aren't paid attention to, then like how you are within families, it can be pretty disruptive. And so you want to make sure that everyone's cohesive and they're well knit together. And I think in the recently concluded BGT, there were talks of slight discrepancies within the team, especially after the first Test match victory, which I think eventually kind of caught up with the team a little bit in the back end. So I think that is why this conversation has even begun, and I think it keeps the team more focused in a sense, and also family being there for a certain period of time I think is healthier, because family in itself has its own complexity. So you add work complexity, family complexities on a long tour, you're not able to maintain the novelty factor of family being there or family traveling while you're on tour. So I think that family being there just for a certain period of time is good, and having them the whole time could probably cause a little bit more complexities within the existing complexities that are already there. So I think this was the reasoning behind why BCCI or why these narratives are running at this point in time. And I think it's a fair call. Yeah, I think on a long tour to have them for a certain period of time makes sense, and then you focus and get back to work, making sure you're focused on your work and what you need to do and what you need to execute for your team. I think that's a very, very fair call. But there is another side to this as well. There could be negatives as well. So if on long tours, I remember with this one long tour that England and Australia were on, I think it's the 2005 Ashes when Matthew Hayden was in very, very bad form. He was in terrible form. And I think that generally there was a rule. I could be wrong about this. I haven't fact checked this, guys, but I could be wrong about this. So I'm saying this with that little caveat, that there was a rule that the players' wives didn't necessarily travel, or they couldn't travel, and the travel was also really far. And so Matthew Hayden was going through a terrible run with the bat at that point in time. And I think the only test match he kind of had a semblance of performance in is when his wife came and surprised him. And so if you're in bad form and things aren't going well, and if you're alone on a tour and you're far away from family and they can't join you, it can be deeply isolating. So I think it can really add to your mental health and mental well-being issues. So in those kind of situations, I think there should be an exception to the cause, an exception to the rule, and allow a family member to come in and visit, even if it's a short tour or a long tour. Because we as a team, you have to understand that India as a team travel a lot. We travel the most as an international side around the world. Today, we have the luxury of having so much talent that we send different teams for different tournaments or different series. But I think on the whole, we have to have exceptions to the rule, even as far as this is concerned. That certainly is a negative. Imagine going through a bad run or slump in form and having no family to lean on. It can be a lot to take. So I think if that exception to the rule can be added as a caveat, then I think it will do really well. And on to the next one. What's the next one? Performance-based pay cuts. Oof, that's a tough one. I have my opinion about this. I think within sport, it's a tough one to add because first of all you get categorized between different categories in that sense. There's A category and there's B and then there's C, right? So you're already pegged into certain different orders. Now, if you're going to be paying players based strictly on form, then I think that's in sport it's going to be a very hard thing to do. I might be slightly biased because I'm an athlete, I'm a cricketer, I'm a sports person, but I think under normal circumstances, a corporate structure doesn't necessarily work in a sporting environment. At least not when it's directly involved with the sport. If it's in the business side of things, I understand. But if it's in the exact sport side of things, then I don't think it is necessarily the best thing to do. That's my opinion. That's my humble opinion about this whole thing. How it works generally is that players' salaries will be partially tied to their individual stats and their team's performance during a tour. If you fail to deliver, you might take less home. I think it's a little rough. That one's a little tough. I might be biased but I don't necessarily agree with that one. What's the positives of it? Well, it promotes accountability. Well, I think as a batter, I would completely disagree. I think as a batter, we get one chance, yeah. We can prepare for hours on end the day before the game or leading on to a game. You get a pitch of a delivery that swings away, comes back and clips your bail off, then what do? You get a good ball. It happens. And then if that happens to you a couple of times, if your luck's not going your way, if it happens to you a few times in the series, then if you're going to catch a pay cut for it, you're going to feel extremely let down. So I don't necessarily agree with that. So another way to go about this would be to say that, hey, you know what? Let's reward the guys who've done extremely well. That motivates the guys to do well, right? Instead of saying, the non-performers, we're going to cut their salaries. Instead of saying that, just say, hey, we're going to give bonuses for the guys who actually do really, really well. So that incentivizes the guys to actually go out there and say, you know what, even if I'm in bad form, let me use this as a motivating factor to actually go out there and perform really well and not just get back to good form, but start winning matches for my team and then really help even win the series for my team. And maybe that will give me a pay rise, or it'll give me a little bit more of an extra income that I'm looking for, from this tour. That would probably be a better way to go for about it, is what I feel. So a lot of you guys may be feeling, hey, yeah, man, they should get a pay cut because, they get paid too much anyway, so they should get a pay cut if they don't perform well or if they're in bad form. Why should they also deal with the pressures that come with it, and I would say I actually respectfully disagree with all of you all, because I think as athletes, as sports people, we have much shorter careers than any corporate does. A corporate in general has a 25 to 40 year career. But a cricketer, if they have a 25-year career, not even one has had that, if I'm not wrong. I think Sachin Tendulkar's probably had one of the longest careers, and that was 24 years. Outside of that, an average Indian career is perhaps between 5 to 8 years. A good one is between 10 to 12 years. An exceptional one is between 15, 12 to 16, 17 years. And a rare one is a 20-year career. So if you can actually do that, I think it's fantastic. And then the amount we earn is, you have to condense what you earn over 40 years to what we earn within 20 years, or in that space, or 10 years, or 15 years, or 12 years, or that space of time. So I don't necessarily agree with it. I think these pay cuts is not something I agree with. Take for example, KL Rahul, for that matter. KL Rahul was pushed up the batting order, pushed down the batting order. Even though he was batting well, in good form, never allowed to settle down into one position during the course of the entire series, and so his performances weren't great. So should he get a pay cut because he was pushed up and down the batting order for no fault of his? I'm giving an example, right? Now, if that happens, would that be considered fair? I don't think so. So what's the bigger picture here? Let's read into it a little bit. So as far as family traveling, not traveling, I think there is a fine balance, and what's been proposed, I think there has been a fine balance, in my opinion. I think there has to be exceptions to the rule, because cricket, with the pressures and the intensities at which cricket is played, I think it becomes ripe for mental health issues, and we as a sport, I think we need to pay a lot more attention to our mental health issues and mental well-being within the side and individually as well. I think genuinely there has to be a mental health expert, or a coach, or a life coach, or a performance coach within the group, who can work with the side, who works in the best interest of the player and works independently, is hired independently by the BCCI for the best interest of the players. If you look at it, one would consider, say, is it a knee-jerk reaction to the performances of Indian cricket team over the last 4 to 5 months, or is it something that's been done with a long-term perspective? I think as far as family is concerned, I think that fine balance is something that seems pretty acceptable to me. I think it's more than acceptable to me. And you have a fine balance of team traveling without family for a certain period of time, and the family visiting for a certain period of time. I think there's a happy balance to that. As far as performance-based pay cuts are concerned, I completely disagree with that. Should there be performance-based incentives? Definitely. I think there could be performance-based incentives that will motivate the players a lot more than performance-based pay cuts will motivate them. It'll add more pressure than there already is within Indian cricket, because we all know how much there is. I can assure you that even within the cricketing ecosystem, our ecosystem is a lot more complex than a lot of other ecosystems, because culturally we're so diverse. So we need to pay a lot more attention to our mental well-being, our mental health as a team, as individual players. We need to pay a lot more attention to it. We need to be a lot more caring and empathetic about that. Outside of that, a balanced approach is what I think we should have. We should always have exceptions to the norm, is what I feel. And if we have those exceptions to those norms, then I think especially guys who are going through bad form and on a long tour, can have that support that they need as far as family is concerned. If that is added into the proposal, then I think it'll be a great one. All in all, there's a lot happening in Indian cricket. It's a pretty dynamic situation at this point in time, but the dust will settle, and I think it'll show us direction for the future. But a few decisions that BCCI have to make, a lot has been proposed. They're pretty strong decisions that need to be taken, and I hope they take the ones that are in the best interest of the team overall, and not just trying to be reactive and put down certain laws. A lot of bold decisions made by BCCI, and we're hoping, and I'm hoping, that this is one that is well thought out and is made in the best interest of the team and the players that play within it. We'll see when the dust settles which direction this will move in. Please do share your thoughts and views as to what it should be. Let's see if you agree with me or agree to disagree with me, and let's have a conversation. I will see you guys on the next one. Till then, peace. Bye.